Right, folks, well, I'm now joined on the line by the gentleman himself, Mr. Mitch Laddie. Welcome to Five Rand Rock Radio.
How you doing? Thank you very much for having me, man.
Now, it's a pleasure to have you on. For those of you unaware of Mitch's talents, and I say talents in the broadest context, obviously you just heard a track by the gentleman himself. It's not one you can pigeonhole. A lot of people might put you down as blues. I don't, because there's so many different influences in your music. Where would you pitch yourself?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. It's kind of an amalgamation of all the influences from over the years, I guess. I mean, there is a lot of blues influence in there.
Sure.
There's a lot of rock influences. There's a lot of jazz. There's a lot of soul, and there's a lot of funk. And then there's the jazz fusion thing as well, and all the guitar player side of things. I don't really know, to be honest. It's just kind of a mixture of a lot of things.
I think that's why I like your music so much, because you can hear so many influences coming through. I mean, certainly on the new live album, I mean, some of the stuff is certainly definitely going down the road of jazz funk, which is, and your take on it, I think, is lovely. I really, really like it.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. That's kind of the route that we've been going down at the minute, and a lot of the new stuff seems to be taking that kind of form. So that's good. As long as people like it, that's the main thing.
Well, that's always the main thing. Obviously, one of your big influences, of course, is Eric Johnson.
That's right. It was when I was about 15 or something like that when I first discovered Eric's playing and his music, and he's been an absolutely just a monumental influence on my playing and on my writing style in terms of the way I look at guitar. But yeah, he's the man, is Eric.
It's one gentleman I've never had a chance to see live. Unfortunately, it's another one on my wish or bucket list, as it were. He's not a gentleman who comes over here that often.
Nah, he doesn't seem to come over too often. I mean, he started to the last sort of year or so. I think he's been over twice or so in the last year, 2 years or something. But I think before that he hadn't been over in like 20 years or something like that. So when I found out that he was coming over and I had the opportunity to go and see him, it was like a dream come true, kind of like a childhood thing, as you say, like a bucket list, little tick off the list there. But he's amazing, you know. He's just a true musician and a guitar player. I always think. But he seems like a very shy guy on stage. He's not a big showman, but he's an amazing musician.
Well, I'm going to take you back now to obviously where you sort of probably came into the public eye, as it were, and of course it was via the support of someone who I'm a massive fan of, and of course that is Mr. Walter Trout.
That's right. I met Walter when I was about 14 years old, and my family knew the band just from going to so many gigs over the years. They were big fans, and after a talk with Walter, it was my dad just mentioned that I was learning to play guitar and stuff like that, and then once I was finally able to go to a gig, like just because of my age, I went. I was blown away, you know, like a guitar crazed kid watching one of my heroes. So I was right at the front, taking it all in. And then me and Walter got talking after the show, and just hit it off. And he asked for some stuff, and I gave him a CD. And a couple of weeks later, and then the next thing I knew, I was sitting in with him in the band all over the country, and then into Europe. It was very surreal. But I owe Walter everything, really. He's a great guy.
Well, one thing we must say, mentioning Walter, obviously, our best wishes go out to him. For those of you unaware, he has been incredibly ill. Still managed to tour, which you've got to say is hats off to the guy, really, considering how early he was. But he's on the road to recovery, I do believe, and fingers crossed for that.
Yeah, I've heard he's responding well to whatever they're doing now. So that's the main thing. He's such a strong character, though. That, as I say, that when he was over on tour last year, he was still himself. So I don't think he's letting it get the better of him, which is great.
No, he's a great guy. I mean, I've seen him quite a few times and spoken to him on a number of occasions. And as you say, he's just a great guy to talk to. Absolutely, just influential to a lot of people. I mean, he seemed to have a real sort of keen eye for young blues guitarists in the UK, and has really got behind them. I'm guessing because when I've spoken to him and a few other artists have come over from the States, that certainly Britain and Europe is the place to be for this sort of music.
Yeah, it's definitely taken off, the guitar thing, and obviously the blues thing as well. But I mean, you've got the crossover with guys like Guthrie Govan and that kind of thing, like really making a lot of young people, I think, want to pick up the guitar again after I think it went a little bit stale for a while.
Indeed.
But yeah, I mean, Walter he loves the music, you know, and he can't help but be moved. You can see it, you know, and you see it with I've seen it with other guitar players, you know, and he's genuinely moved by it when young players come up and they're playing the blues, and they've got a lot of the influences that influenced him, and you know, the guys after that, including Walter. He's just a great guy. He's a really, really true gentleman, and he loves to support the music and the people who are trying to carry the torch, and for that he is just an absolute legend.
Well, let's go on to what is, of course, the new album just come out. Obviously, the new live album, which luckily I was sent by your management to review. But I mean, it's just fabulous anyway. Nice of you to have a live album out, and it's got to be said, as I said in the review, a live album which actually sounds superb. The production on it is great, because there's so many live albums that are really sort of flat and lifeless.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, we were blessed with having Phil Casebury, who's Walter's sound man. He recorded the gig, so I mean, we were in good hands.
Right.
For the raw recordings, but once we listened to it and we took it into the studio, it was a case of like, it was really well recorded and it was a really good night. So let's bring it all to how it sounds when we're playing on stage, and how like how it should sound from out front. You know, I know what you mean. That there are a lot of live albums that you hear and you just think, what was going on there? Why didn't they make it? Well, it sounds stupid to say, but why didn't they make it sound a little bit better? You know,
I have got a real love-hate relationship with live albums, because they are something which either, in your case, they work really well, or they really do fall flat on their face.
Well, that's good, and if we've managed to avoid falling flat on our face, that's always a good thing.
Well, I think people are very much aware of how I put my, shall we say, my opinion forward, and I certainly tell it like it is.
That's the best way, man.
So, are you going back out on tour in support of a live album, if that makes sense?
Yeah, we will be. I mean, we've kind of started now. We've got a few release dates, like launch parties, however you want to put them.
Right.
We did one just at the weekend at a place called the Meeting Room in Halifax, which is a great venue run by some really, really lovely people. And then we're back at the Clooney this weekend, which is where we recorded the album. So that'll be great to go back. And then we're in Oxford at the Bully in Oxford, which is another venue that we love, in a city that we love as well. So yeah, I mean, we've got those, and then we'll be out into Europe as of May, and yeah, we'll just be out as much of the year as we can, as well as putting together the next studio album. So.
Well, hopefully, fingers crossed, at some point you guys will be back down at the Beewood, because it'd be great to see you again. Right,
yeah, I mean, I haven't heard anything yet, but there's always time, you know, it's still early in the year.
Right, I'll start badgering Peter now then.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be back, man.
I've only had a chance to see you guys live once, and that was supporting Virgil and the Accelerators. And my memory of that gig was you and Virgil at the end jamming together, and it was absolutely fantastic.
Cheers, man. Yeah, Virgil's a great player.
So you're going to go back in and record, which will be your third studio album.
That's right.
Are you going to carry on in the same direction as with the live, or are you going to put more twists on it, or are you going to be more sort of blues based, or are you sort of fairly open to what you're going to do at the moment?
Yeah, as it stands, we're just looking at it with a really open mindset. We're just getting together and seeing what comes out naturally. A lot of the songs, we've got a handful of songs over the last sort of, well, since the turn of the year,
Right.
including the two that were included on the live album. Yeah, I mean, they just seem to be happening quite naturally. There's nothing forced about them, so we're just kind of seeing what comes out and what we like and what we don't. We're just experimenting at the minute, just the early stages of writing and getting the songs together. But I mean, from what has came out, it's definitely got a lot more of the funk influence and that kind of thing, which definitely seems to be something that we want to pursue, even if we don't know it, because it's subconsciously coming out either way. But yeah, I mean, we're pretty open. We'll see. I guess it's a little bit too early to say. I would suppose. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
I was going to say, I mean, listening to the live album, although obviously they mark down as individual tracks on the album itself, I mean, it is almost like listening to a jam session that you're almost just letting the music flow. I mean, I don't know how to put this properly. And once people listen to the album, they'll probably understand what the hell I'm waffling on about. But there's just a general flow. It's just a real vibe that the three of you've got into, as though you almost forget that you're playing a particular tune and just really live in the music.
Well, yeah, I mean I guess that's a really good way of putting it. I mean, we love playing as a trio together because it it gives us the opportunity to individually express ourselves without compromising the overall sound of all three of us. So I'm blessed to have both Ryan and Matt as part of the band, because without them I couldn't do that. So it is though. I mean, it is something that we do tend to do. Sometimes we have to rein it in a little bit if we just go on some sort of crazy jazz trance or something like that. But no, we do love to jam, and we try to improvise and push each other as much as we can on stage, because it always keeps it fresh, and yeah, we're just constantly trying to push each other, which is always a good thing.
So how did you get hooked up with the two guys? Is it saying that they both live local to you, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, they both live local, but myself and Ryan, the bass player, we met when we were in our first year of secondary school, so we've known each other since we were about 11, and we started we basically learned how to play our instruments with each other, just by practicing with one another, and just again pushing each other from an early age. And we were in a band during our teens, and then that quickly materialized into the Mitch Laddie trio, which was when we did This Time Around. And we had another drummer, Lee Clifford, who was with us on both This Time Around and Burning Bridges. But then Lee wanted to go and do some other things. Ryan stayed with us, and then we knew of Matt because he owns a music store, which is quite local to us. So we would go in there for whenever we needed anything. So we knew him, but only as a mild acquaintance, shall we say. And then when we needed a drummer, I just got in touch with him and just asked if he was open to do it, because he was traditionally in the other bands that he was in, it was very much fast-paced punk and like pop punk and that kind of thing. So it was
a little bit of a change.
That's it. Yeah, it was different from the stuff that he'd been doing before. But I think he really saw it as an opportunity to push himself. And me and Ryan, once he joined it, as I say, getting back to what I said earlier about us all pushing each other, we saw it as an opportunity to push ourselves again. So to be honest, again, getting back to the live album, that's kind of one of the things that made the live album a real possibility, because once Matt joined, the songs from both the first album and Burning Bridges it's amazing just how different songs can feel and sound just by replacing a drummer, and that definitely came across on a lot of the songs when we were on tour in 2012 for Burning Bridges, and the songs took on a different life, and people started asking us to do it again, and it was like, right, okay, this actually sounds like a really fun idea now. Let's do it. So.
Well, it's got to be said. I mean, one of the phrases used on your own website to describe you guys is "airlock tight," and I think that is absolutely bang on.
Cheers, man.
Because I mean, it is though such a tight knit outfit. I say it again in the review. Just I can't believe how well you guys gel together. I mean, I've heard bands who've been together for years, and there's always I don't know. There's almost like a gap sometimes between, say, the bass player or the drummer. Although they're obviously all playing at the same time, etc. There's something missing. I don't. Is it maybe a soul of the song or something where you guys, you just really gel together, and it is something which I'll say to you guys out there: if you get a chance to see Mitch and the boys out on tour, do grab the opportunity. You know me well enough not to bullshit. Because it is fantastic, and do go out and buy the live album, because I do plug the things that I like heavily, and this is something that is well worth taking up.
Cheers, man.
Well, Mitch, I've taken up more than enough of your time. I really appreciate you coming on the show. I wish you all the best success with this album, I say, because as obviously people have already gathered, I rather like it, and I shall be twisting Pete's arm to get you guys back down at the Beaverwood. I shall be nagging him on a weekly basis until he picks up the phone and gives you a call, because you know what he's like.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we'll be back at some point, I'm sure. So, but yeah.
Well, Mitch Laddie, it's been a real pleasure. Thanks very much for coming on Firebrand, and I hope to speak to you again really soon.
Thank you very much for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Anytime. Cheers, Mitch.
Cheers. All the best.